To all the people labeled as gifted in their childhood, how's life now? Became a chronic procrastinator in everything school and work related. Because I got into the mentality of this will work out fine. It always works out fine. Once I graduated from university I realized I was doing this because I was afraid of putting massive effort into something only for it to turn out imperfect. At least if I didn't start a 20-page paper till 48 hours before due, I could blame errors and poor quality on a lack of time. Riddled with anxiety and struggling with substance abuse. Complete FINS. I grew up being relatively good at most things. Arts, sports, school, etc. It made me not learn how to persevere and work hard to get good at things. Now when I try things and can't do it I just quit. I wish I could get out of the cycle cause this sucks. It went alright. Breezed through high school. Got okay grades in college. Never really tried. Got burnt out and bored of everything. Now working a job that pays solid, but I don't particularly like. I think my performance is tied to my engagement, so when I get bored I start doing bad. That's got me stressing. Because I've never stayed interested in any job for more than a year or so. Just a whole lot of is this it for the next 30 years. It's okay, but the toughest thing to get used to is when you start to meet with actual challenges in life. Everyone telling you how gifted you are makes you think everything will always come easily to you. So when things don't, then you don't have the skills to deal with that. It can be demoralizing. Turns out I had an autism spectrum disorder, and inability to relate to people screwed my life for years. Pretty good. The problem most seem to have is they never learn the heaps of praise they get from well-meaning people who think they'll change the world as bullshit. I've had my ambitions and expectations realigned to match reality for a while now, and I'm much happier with things compared to a decade ago when I was going to change the world. I also played competitive sport as a kid, and while I was good, there was always someone there to beat me and remind me that being smart will only get you so far. While I'm moderately successful, this comment rings so true for me, and not in a happy way. I was told growing up that I was so smart and I could be anything I wanted to be. A doctor, a scientist, the president. I heard it all. I was going to change the world. Basically, like I said, I've done fine for myself. But my job is not exciting. It's not groundbreaking. It's definitely not going to change the world. But I have a hard time feeling satisfied with the success I've had because I think all the time that I'm somehow failing all those people who thought I was going to be something way more impressive. On one hand, I can learn pretty much anything intuitively. On the other hand, I can pretty much only learn intuitively. School curriculums were not designed for that type of learning/teaching dynamic. I'd ignore classes, in which I learned very little anyway, show up and write exams without studying, and then get mediocre grades as a consequence. Floated through college, and am now that one jack of all trades guy at the office. Because apparently intuitive learning is good for making you into the only person who understands SharePoint or can get a printer working again, even though your college major was in marketing. I always see comments saying negative things about being labeled gifted, but for myself it was really important in accessing appropriate educational activities in school. Things are great for me now. I'm working a job I love. I have a wonderful spouse and deep relationships with friends and family, and I continue to learn things that interest me in my spare time. I think there will be even more positive things in the future, since my career involves a lot of continuous learning and personal growth, and I have lots of plans for fun projects to do together with my spouse. I appreciate friends/family that are also gifted very much, since we tend to be on the same wavelength, share our humor and thoughts, and provide useful, accurate feedback to each other. I wish I had died while I still had potential to waste. Decent. Self-confidence is still shit. After some years in the army, less concerned about survival abilities and capabilities within a professional environment. Tried college once. Failed. Tried it after the military. Did an entire engineering bachelor's in 2 years 4 months. Still socially retarded. No friends for a decade or so now. Overshare a bit when talking. Have 3 kids and a nice wife. Who happens to think I'm autistic to some extent. Not bad. Meh. Bought into the idea that I was wasting my talents if I didn't go to college. Now I have a ton of student loans and I wish I had gone into a field that I find more enjoyable. I'm still very young, 20F. Breezed through school and high school, but was very focused and motivated. Currently in my last semester of getting a BS in astrophysics and BA in economics, graduating summer cum laude. With full scholarship. Several research experiences as well. Well-rounded with extracurriculars. Wouldn't say I'm successful yet, but I'm doing fine. Took 10 years to finish my bachelor's in English and finally land an office job that doesn't require a BA. At least 3 years after landing this gig I make $19 an hour and have 3 weeks of PTO and decently cheap health insurance. But seriously, parents, if your genius child says they're struggling, please listen. I could have achieved a lot closer to my mom's expectations if she just listened to me when I asked for help. I live by myself and have no friends and my family has disowned me, but I have a 6-figure salary. Really good. Actually, I gave up on my original dream of becoming a research scientist. Too much schooling, not enough pay, and chose to get a degree in electrical and computer engineering. I graduated in 2001, right during a tech boom. I've pretty much had my pick of jobs ever since. Right now, I work as a senior software engineer at an online gaming company, and I love it. Life in general is good, too. I was only slightly nerdy, so I played sports in high school, dated pretty regularly, all that. I managed to find a wonderful woman to marry, and we have 2 great kids, both of whom are gifted as well. Dropped out of college at 15 because of a massive anxiety attack and lost my full ride. Worked a lot of crappy fast food jobs and a few decent machine operator jobs. Trying to figure out life still, but severe depression and anxiety make things more difficult than necessary. Still, I'm doing pretty well, and I'm hopeful for what may come. Fine. And you? Boring and depressing. As a child, being special, at least for me, really became one of my traits. However, as I grew up I began to realize I wasn't special, I just paid attention. Which really hurts when you come to realize it. Fine. 40, married, happy mostly, make low 6 figures, but haven't changed the world or anything. Went through the usual lack of focus and discipline thing in my 20s. Worked through it. Have led an unremarkable life in most respects, but that's okay. The real pleasures of life are universal anyway. I'm huddled on the flood under a blanket nest I made by stuffing the edges into the couch. On the bright side, my phone is at 42% battery. At a contrast to more popular answers here, I'm doing fairly well. I have a PhD from a top school and I have a good job, a nice apartment of my own, wonderful boyfriend, and I'm genuinely happy. My worst fault is that I spend a lot of time on Reddit because I work from home and I have more time than ever to goof off. They fucking lied, bro. I'm drunk and homeless and ranting about conspiracy theories on /r/science thread. I'm struggling, honestly, but I never really bought into it in the first place. This question hit really deep. I used to be always top of the class without even trying. Like I'd finish a 1-hour math exam in 10 minutes and get the full mark. When I went to middle school things started getting more tough, and at that time I needed to study but didn't know what studying methods worked best for me. So my grades downgraded. I'm a high school student and I'm starting to get back on track thanks to my parents constantly believing in me and never giving up on me. They didn't understand how I lost all motivation. I'm a perfectionist, so when I found that I wasn't immediately good at some subjects I kinda gave up. Lol. Please wish me luck, I need it. Being gifted means nothing without ambition and drive. I have zero ambition beyond living comfortably. So now I fuel airplanes at night and sleep most of the day. I've learned that I'm autistic/have ADHD. I'm so horribly depressed and anxious that it prevents me from leaving my house even on my best days. I can't work or drive, and people keep pestering me about going back to school. I dropped out of high school halfway through my senior year. I had decent grades minus one class, but I had missed too many days due to my declining mental health. This was back in 2013. Close bracket. It was a tie between a girl and myself for who had the highest IQ in our class. She has been quite successful, while I have not. She grew up in a well-to-do family, while I was the first one in my family with a college degree. I don't make excuses, because there are a lot of factors that determine success. But being gifted isn't always a path to success. I do know that. It's something I struggle with, because my entire life I've been told how much potential I have, yet I barely have anything to show for it. I was a gifted kid from a poor family, so there was the intersection of praise for breezing through school and the middle class assumption that poor people are either stupid, lazy, or both. Was lucky to get a scholarship to be an exchange student in high school. Only went to college because I was a National Merit Scholarship finalist. Finished college and then floundered. Had a low paying job 4 years. Ended up borrowing a truckload of money for law school. Graduated law school hating the industry so much. Went back to the crappy, low paying job. Crushed by not living up to my own expectations. The perceived expectations of friends and family. And under a cloud of enormous student debt. Ended up doing a lot of drinking. Finally, couch surfing at friends' houses. No car, etc. Got an opportunity to go back to Latin America as a teacher. It was a kind of wake up call. I could either stay and live a simple, comfortable life teaching, or return to the States and confront law degree and debt. Came back to the US. Took the bar 7 years after getting out of law school. Passed, but got S from character and fitness for 7-year gap and outstanding student loans. Got a job as a law clerk. Finally got licensed. Started working for myself. By the time I got my life back in control, I was in my early 40s and had given up on getting married, having a family, etc. Then I met a woman and we ended up getting married. She's very brilliant, especially with numbers and finance. And I find myself in my mid-50s with a great wife, 2 wonderful kids, and the wealthy success that everyone expected me to be. And the most important thing, I wouldn't change it. If I could go back and be successful from right out of college, I think I wouldn't have grown as a person. And as someone here pointed out, height IQ isn't high IQ. So don't despair, and don't let the expectations of yourself or others crush you. Started out with 4.0 GPA and was enrolled in my school's gifted and talented education program. Was always touted as being smart and would just absolutely loathe myself if I achieved anything less than perfection. Started contemplating suicide before I even left elementary school. Once I started middle school, my depression hit me like a truck. Realized no one really cared if I wasn't perfect, so I stopped trying. I thought schoolwork was beneath my intellect and skipped a lot of assignments. My parents got mad sometimes, but were too busy arguing to pay close attention. I was a mental wreck by the time I got to high school. This was the point I started failing classes because I just didn't care. I had really bad insomnia and only slept a couple hours a night. My parents punished my failure by sending me to another school where I didn't get along with anyone and was miserable. All of my teenage angst compounded to the point that the thought of going to school caused me to be physically ill. My parents let me go back to the other school with my friends, but a couple years later I ended up with my first detainment in a mental ward after threatening to kill myself. Barely graduated. Was really directionless for a long time. Tried college and dropped out. Worked various jobs, but couldn't keep them. Ended up in the hospital a couple more times. My parents divorced. Spent a long time in therapy, and I'm still going. I've been at the job I have now for 3 years, which is my current personal best. I make decent money, and am looking to buy a house in the next year or 2. I've also decided to pursue my passion, and I'm developing a video game. Wouldn't have made it this far without my mom's constant support. Terrible. Parent expects too much out of me, and I'm so scared to try anything I'm not good at that I just completely give up because I don't know if I can get better. Called back gifted back in elementary school. Got a 4.6 GPA senior year of high school. 4.3 cumulative without studying more than 30 minutes for any given test, including finals. Now I'm in college and I'm getting completely fucked over because I lack work ethic and never really learned how to study properly. Got the mentality of if I'm not instantly good at it, why even bother? I'm a lawyer with a wonderful, beautiful, smart, and funny lawyer wife. I have 2 incredible children and a nice group of friends with different interests that I can always find something to do with. I fought depression, suicidal ideation and 5 years of group therapy to get here. I have no right to be sad sometimes. Shitty. I did advanced everything growing up, but had zero guidance. Parents didn't help me, and I didn't have a good counselor or mentor at school. No one directing me about decisions for my future. Now I have a job I don't care for. I graduated college later than I should have with a basically useless degree. Now that I feel like I need to do something better, I'm 40 years old, have a family to look out for, and bettering myself seems to be permanently on the back burner. I feel like I'm on a sinking ship. Being gifted hasn't gotten me anywhere. Without some kind of direction coupled with a strong work ethic, intellect doesn't really amount to much. Doing great. 38F. Grew up gifted but incredibly underprivileged. Foster care, parental abuse/neglect, poverty and homelessness. Joined the Marine Corps and breezed through with honors. Got out after a few tours and finished college and law school easily. Currently a successful attorney of 6 years and bought an amazing home in LA with my wife and son. I do struggle with anxiety and alcohol at times, but both are managed and I've had no negative outcomes from either. I've always struggled with people and their excuses because I've been successful after such a rest childhood. I think everyone can be if they try hard enough. I just came to the realization recently that that is bulls. My intelligence got me where I'm at. This realization has humbled me and I see others' struggles differently. I started not to try as much and had breakdowns when I couldn't get something. Although I'm a lot better now. I don't have perfect grades like I used to. I'm still smart though, and I'm going to college next year to hopefully become a veterinarian. Shitty.